Welcome everyone to this week's episode of Unrooted Softball Edition, and my guest for this week's show is none other than utility player on the softball team, Regina Juarez. Regina, thanks so much for joining me.
Thank you for having me, Brian.
So let's start by getting to know you a little bit better. Last year was a rough year for you. You missed a large part of it due to injury. Can you talk a little bit about what the specifics behind the injury were and what the rehab process was like?
Okay, so I tore my labrum and had hip surgery on my left hip. The rehab process, well, I'm still going through it. Crunch, I messed up. I'm sorry. Sorry.
Bloopers!
Of course. So last year I tore my labrum and had hip surgery on my left hip. The rehab process was probably the biggest challenge I've ever faced. I'm still going through it. It was very difficult for me to do table work, even run. And yeah, but my teammates were a huge support and always helping me, and I'm glad that they were helping me.
Was that really the first time you've ever gone through a significant injury like that?
Yes, it was. Well, in the fall, I had to get stitches on my knee because our pitcher, Jordan, actually accidentally fell on me. But other than that, hip surgery was probably...
She fell on you?
Oh yeah, I slid into second and she jumped and she fell and tore my knee apart.
Ugh,
yeah,
that's brutal.
With plastic cleats.
Ugh, great.
Yeah.
Well, despite missing basically the entire season, you always had a smile on your face. You're always one of the loudest people in the dugout. That's something that's always stood out to me. Where do you get this disposition from?
Well, I'd have to say my parents, they always told me be grateful for what you have, and I was just blessed to get this opportunity to be on a collegiate softball team. And I felt like if I was to be like a Debbie Downer on my teams, since I was hurt, like it wouldn't help them, so I try to help them in every way possible.
Bucket hats were a trend of last year's team, and I saw you rocking the look quite a bit in 2016. What is your official stance on the bucket hat?
Well, since everyone knows Coach Lyle and how he's Twitter famous, Instagram famous, he found a way to try and make us famous somehow. So we all got these bucket hats and we wore them, and we always snipe our opponents just for a good luck charm.
Is that something that's still going on this year?
Occasionally, since we're everyone's playing more, we don't really do it.
Now let's talk a little bit about the team specifically. The 2017 NAICS SoCal Classic took place last week and was wildly successful for you guys. You won all 5 of your games and you scored 53 runs over the 5 games in the tournament. What was the approach for the hitters and what really stood out that worked?
Well, our approach was pretty much pass the bat. Everyone was on fire this weekend. We just made good adjustments. We seen slow pitching to fast pitching, and we just stood back, or we'd fix our mistakes every so often.
At the final day of the tournament, you started playing at noon, and then you played 3 games, and you guys didn't finish up until about 11:30 at night. How hard was it to be playing so late at night?
I mean, it was pretty hard considering the fact that we wake up about 5:30 every morning, so about 10 was our bedtime. So by the time our 3rd game came around, we were just let's just 10-run rule them and leave. But yeah, we were so tired.
One thing that's very clear about this year's team is how deep the roster is. The Game 1 lineup can be completely different from Game 2, and the talent doesn't seem to drop off at all. How much of an edge does that give you over the competition? I
mean, it's pretty good considering the fact that last year we played straight 9. We never substituted anyone in. And this year it gives our starters a little break, and it also gives competition with each other to make each other better. Our competition this year, they should probably be really scared because yeah.
Really scared because?
Because yeah.
Because this team's great.
Yeah, we're pretty great.
Trying to get back to the playoffs again.
Yes.
There's more left-handed hitters on this year's team, so you aren't the only one of the bunch this year. What makes left-handers so valuable?
I believe the 4 left-handers on this team is valuable because we're very flexible. Most of the time when left-handers come up to bat, our opponents think we're slapping or bunting, but we actually have a lot of power within us 4. And we also could bunt and slap and get the job done when Coach Hardy wants us to. So I think that's one advantage we have.
Left-handers unite, right?
Yes, seize
Come on, left hand, left hand. There
sorry.
we go, see?
Sorry.
I'm glad, no, hey, you know what, I'm glad you figured that out. Because see, we lefties, we gotta stick together, you know what I'm saying?
Yes.
I was a lefty too, and I gotta ask, because I know in baseball when I played in high school, it was, you know, when you faced a left-handed pitcher, like you were doomed from the start. Is that the same in softball?
Yeah, I'd have to, well, for me personally, I like left-handed pitchers because it's like the same, but I always hear my teammates complaining like, oh, she's a lefty. Just be like, I like lefties.
So obviously the preference is still going to be right-handers?
Yeah, right-handers.
Now last year you guys beat everyone by mashing the ball out of the yard. You guys set a program record for home runs in 1 year. That was clearly the strength of the offense. This year it's been a lot more focused around sustaining rallies and great pitching, which you've had a ton of so far this year. What are some of the differences you noticed from this year's team from last year's team?
Well, this year we're more consistent with our hitting rather than last year. We would always like wait for someone to hit a home run and we depended on it. I think this year is like we have a big advantage because once we hit, we just keep on rallying and it's like good.
It's good.
Yeah, sorry.
No, hey, you're fine. This team stresses the importance of Ohana, which means family. How did that come about and how has that shaped the culture of this team?
Well, when I came in my freshman year, I heard the veterans say like Ohana, and like I got a little more info on that, and I guess it's a legacy with the softball program, and I believe like it sets our culture pretty well because like we have each other's back no matter what, and we know like the importance each individual has on the team.
Now, are you ready for the final segment of the show?
Yes.
I imagine you've lost a lot of sleep over this. It's called Brownie Bites. I'm going to ask you 3 random questions, rapid fire style. Answer them as much as you feel the need to.
Okay.
You ready? Question number 1, which teammate could you impersonate the best?
Well, honestly, I feel like I can impersonate anyone, so if you give me a name, I could probably do it.
Who's your best?
Well, McKenna Vega, she always has these sound effects, and it goes like, oh, my shin. It's so funny.
Is that something from catching?
Yeah, or just her personality goes like that.
Question number 2, the teammate that cannot pull off the bucket hat look is?
Oh, this one's probably going to get me in trouble. I'd have to say Elena Morgan just because she wears it all the time.
So that makes it not stylish.
Yeah, no.
All right, Elena, you heard it from Regina. She's calling you out. Question number 3, the teammate that snored the loudest after the 2017 NAICS SoCal Classic was?
Don't tell them I said this, but I'd have to say the twins, Megan and Mackenzie. I mean, it's hard to tell them apart, so
I still can't.
Yeah.
You heard it here first, the Wright sisters. I cannot tell you apart. The only way I can tell you apart is because you wear 2 different numbers. When I see you around campus, forget it. So that's why I always just kind of keep to myself, you know, I just can't figure them out. How do you figure them out?
Well, since Mackenzie plays first with me, we are together most of the time and make catches, so I kind of tell a little difference, but I kind of really don't. Only on game days.
How long of a time frame did it take for you to figure out the difference between the 2?
Probably about a year. They still get mad that I switch them up. I just say the twins now.
I can imagine that happens quite a bit, though.
Yeah.
Well, Regina, thank you so much for joining me on the show. And fans, do not forget that softball begins conference play this weekend. They will be traveling to Arizona Christian for a 2-game doubleheader on the 24th of February, starting at 1 o'clock down there in Phoenix. And then they travel to Prescott, take on Embry-Riddle of Arizona on the 25th. That's also a doubleheader, and that one will start at 10 o'clock a.m. Well, don't forget to also join us for next week's show when Regina Juarez will choose the interviewee that I will be throwing under the bus on next week's version of Unrooted Softball Edition. Thanks so much for joining us. I'm Brian Brownfield, and we will see you next week.